I'm back here on the Shetland main island after visiting some very remote islands, which I absolutely loved and were possibly the best trips I've done in Scotland so far. This time I'm going to be heading to Scotland's easternmost point. This is actually the main reason I came back to Shetland. I visited the southernmost point, I visited the northernmost point or seen it, and this time I want to visit the easternmost point of Scotland. The easternmost point is not actually on the Shetland main island. It's a group of islands around 2.5 hours east of here. The ferry's leaving shortly, so let's go. Well, quite a hot day today. Okay, so I'm driving through Lerwick. Where's the entrance to the ferry? Oh. So I went directly into the ferry thinking you just drive on, but there's actually a waiting area. That's quite embarrassing. Hello, this is going to Out Skerries.
No. No.
Oh gosh, okay.
That one's for the Skerries, so whenever it comes, you go on that one. I'll just get him to go back.
Oh, sorry. Right. Sorry,
Don't worry.
I should go back into the queue there.
Yeah, go
yeah, right, sorry. So I was in the line for the ferry, but actually it was the wrong ferry. So now the correct ferry is coming in, and this is the ferry that goes to Out Skerries. I think the other ferry was going, well, it was going somewhere else. I almost got on, so I'm really glad I checked that it was the correct ferry. Okay, here's the ferry arriving into the harbour here in Lerwick.
Can you reverse on?
Yes,
Okay.
I can try. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Once all the vehicles were loaded on, the ferry quickly departed Lerwick and we passed by the docked Northlink ferry. The Out Skerries lies 13 miles east of the Shetland mainland and consists of 3 main islands and a few smaller islands. The journey from Lerwick takes around 2 hours and 15 minutes, and my return ticket cost £26.30. Francis, who works on the ferry, invited me up to the wheelhouse for a better look at the views. So where are we heading first?
We're going up to the Out Skerries, and then we're going to get clear of our cars and the passengers, and we have some cargo down at the hold, and that'll take maybe, I don't know, 20 minutes, half hour, and then after that we head back to Walsey, which will take us about an hour to get there and get tied up, and then we go home. That'll be the end of the day.
So I've been hired to help on the ship.
Yeah.
Do people ever get seasick on this ferry?
All the time.
Do they? Oh, I'm back in the van, and so far the journey is going really smoothly. It's not very choppy at all. It was so nice to go up to the wheelhouse and see the views from up there. Everyone that works on the ferry is so friendly, and they were telling me about the island that they're from and also about some of the traditions on their island as well, which was so interesting. Before we arrive onto the Out Skerries, I want to share with you about my new water bottle. So I've used many different types of water bottles over the years, but this one is definitely the best. It's called the Hydro X from Bottle. It's made from stainless steel and it has this dual drinking area. So you can either drink out of the straw or you can drink out of the bottle directly. However, the coolest feature of this water bottle, in my opinion, is this. Let me show you. So you can unscrew the bottom of the bottle, and inside you can store items. So you can put things in here like medicine, snacks, or even a key. The bottom of the bottle is also really grippy, and there's been a few times where I've forgotten the bottle on the back table here in the van, and I've been driving along looking in the mirror and the bottle is still sitting here. It doesn't fall off the table. The bottle also has a handle, which is really convenient, so I always carry it around with me when I'm walking, and it keeps ice cold for 12 hours. Bottle have kindly sponsored this video today, and they're offering a 15% discount code for you. I've actually already used the code and bought another bottle. So this is called the Magic Cube. It's a little bit taller and skinnier than the Hydro X, but I'm going to be giving this to my mum for her birthday. The design is absolutely lovely. I'll leave the link in the video description below if you'd like to get your own water bottle. I think we're almost here, so let's go out and see the views. As we approached the Out Skerries, we passed Out Skerries, Scotland's easternmost point, and home to a Stevenson lighthouse. Next we passed the Isle of Grunay. It's now uninhabited, but was once home to the lighthouse keepers and their families. The ferry docked at the natural harbour on the Isle of Bruray, one of the 2 inhabited islands here. After unloading the vehicles, the freight was offloaded before the ferry departed again. I have made it here to the Out Skerries. The ferry journey from Lerwick took around 2.5 hours. There is another place that you can catch the ferry from in Shetland, and I believe the journey time is around 90 minutes. So it depends on the day where the ferry leaves from. So if you're planning to come here, you can check the up-to-date ferry timetable online. The ferry journey was so calm, so beautiful, but they said it's not always like that, especially in the winter season. The Out Skerries are a group of a few islands, and there's 2 big islands and they're connected by a bridge. And then nearby there is an uninhabited island, and then there is the island which has the lighthouse, which is Scotland's easternmost point. So I'm not sure if it's possible for me to actually get on to Scotland's easternmost point. I really would like to, but even if I can just see it from a distance, I think if I've seen it, it still counts that I've been to Scotland's easternmost area or point. The weather right now is incredible. I'm going to head out and make the most of this amazing weather because it's quite rare to have days like this in Scotland. Let's go and explore the Out Skerries. So here on the harbour is this lovely ferry waiting room, and this is great because obviously if it's rainy and windy, it's nice to have somewhere to sit and wait for the ferry. Let's have a look inside. Here's the place where you stamp. So I actually met a girl who was going around the islands doing like island bagging, a bit like the Munro bagging with the hills, the group of 282 hills in Scotland. So there's an app called the Scottish Islands Passport, and you can visit the islands and then collect your stamp. So here's the stamp for this island, and this island is Bruray. Maybe I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Oh wow, so this is the ferry waiting room. On this side they have crafts for sale, so all these lovely hand knitted items. These are lovely. Oh wow, there's some lovely hats. That looks like a scarf. That's a lovely colour, that one. These head warmers. These are really nice. £14. That's lovely. There's some other items down here like coasters, key rings, pens, and then you can write what you buy in the book. There's a little kitchen area as well, so tea and coffee, some cups, and also a microwave there. A friend from Shetland actually recommended this book. As you can see, it's quite large, and this has a lot of history and information about the Out Skerries, if this is something you're interested in, and it's called The Forgotten Isles. I wonder why it's called The Forgotten Isles. Wow, so much information. Incredible resource about these islands. So many stories and facts. This must have been so much work to write a book like this. Maybe I'll spend some time in here and read some of this book while I'm here on the Out Skerries. Here's the ferry timetable, and then there's also all these leaflets and pamphlets. So there's some here for the Out Skerries. Also this map which shows the walking route around the islands. Right now I'm here at the ferry. So as you can see, these are 2 separate islands and they're joined here by a bridge, and this blue line is a suggested route. So I'm going to try and walk as much as possible tonight when we have the good weather. In the ferry waiting room there's also lots of books as well. I just spotted this beautiful blanket here hanging on the side of the bookshelf. £175 for a blankie. It's so beautiful. Wow. At the pier, there's also this toilet block, so there's toilets and also a shower available inside there as well. There's also information about the island, which is really useful, so I'll have a look at that before I set off on my walk. So just here beside the public toilets is some places for fuel. So this must be where the fuel is put and then people can fill up their cars. Oh, that's a nice welcome written on the side of the boat. The Out Skerries is home to about 35 people and can be explored on foot during a day trip. In Old Norse, the name means the Eastern Islets, and the Bound Skerry Lighthouse is just 164 nautical miles from Norway. For a long time, fishing has been the main industry on these islands. I've been walking around the village and I noticed that there is an airstrip, so it's just here. Let's go and have a little look. So here's the entrance to the airstrip. I read online that the airstrip is currently not in use for intra-island flights. I think it used to be, but there's no one on the island that's trained as a firefighter, so that's why it's currently not in operation. But it is open for chartered flights, and sometimes people charter flights to some of these small islands for bird watching, especially if a rare bird has been sighted on the island. People will charter a plane from different parts of the UK and then come here to try and spot the rare bird. At 370 metres, this was the world's shortest runway for commercial flights. The road connecting the two inhabited islands of Huset and Brewery is around 1 mile long, and most residents live near the road. I passed the island school, which has been mothballed since 2016 due to a lack of school-aged children. The Out Skerries once had Britain's smallest secondary school, but it closed in 2014. The island also has 2 shops, one on each island, a post office, a church, and a community hall. So about a 10-minute walk from the pier is the bridge that connects the 2 biggest islands here. Let's cross over and head to the other island. So as I'm walking around, I've come across another shop here. So this is the second shop on the island, which is quite unusual to have 2 shops for an island with such a small population, but it's really nice that there is 2 shops here, because I feel like when there's a shop on an island, it adds a bit more convenience for the people living here. Maybe if the shop is open tomorrow, I'll go in and have a look. Now that I've crossed the bridge, I'm on the Isle of Huset, and my van is on the other island over there. And I picked up this leaflet in the ferry waiting room, which is really good. It's very detailed and has a lot of things listed on here that you can see. And after passing a lot of the houses, I've taken a path which starts the walk around the circumference of the Isle of Huset. And one of the first stops here is a place that you can see otters. So fingers crossed there is a chance to see otters today. So on the map it looks like it's around this area where the otters can be spotted, and I've seen pictures of otters in Shetland before, and it does seem that they like this seaweedy and rocky type of area. Hopefully one will appear. Okay, so I waited for around 10 minutes and there was no sign of any otters. There's lots more to see on this island, so I'm going to keep going. Much like Fair Isle, the Out Skerries is a popular spot for bird watchers and is a haven for migratory birds blown off course by strong winds. So I'm walking now along the coast and there are a lot of birds. So this is a really popular place for people to come bird watching, the Out Skerries. And I've noticed the Arctic terns, they've started dive bombing again towards me. So when they start doing that, that means that you're in the vicinity of a nest and they're trying to be protective. So I'm going to step away a little bit from the rocks and the coast because I don't want to disturb a nest, and I also don't want to get hit by one of the birds because it would be probably quite painful. As I'm walking, I've come across this wall. This looks very interesting. Perhaps it was used for keeping sheep. So on my leaflet, I just checked, and this area, it mentions that there's lots of birds, and it is correct. There are so many birds behind me. Wow. Quite a few different types of birds as well. I'm sorry, I'm not an expert on birds, so I can't tell you what they all are, but I've definitely seen the Arctic terns, I think. No puffins, I know what they look like. The scenery behind me is really spectacular. I am starting to feel a little bit tired, and the reason is because I took seasickness pills, so I haven't really been taking them when I catch ferries, but today I decided to take the seasick pills and they have made me feel drowsy. That is a side effect of taking seasickness pills. It's a shame because I really want to power on and see much more of the island, but I want to share it because if you come to Shetland or if you take a ferry, you might have the same side effects as me. I think I'll be fine. I did have some coffee earlier before I started my walk, so let's go. It's so peaceful. I've been walking along the cliffs, and I think this is the first time I've experienced in Shetland dead calm. There's no wind. Sometimes the winds can be really, really strong, and there's no rain. It's so calm. There's hardly even a breeze. It's so nice to experience Shetland like this because everything looks unreal. The cliffs, the views, you can see so far into the distance and see neighbouring islands. It's incredible. I think on days like this, it must be quite easy to spot a fin in the water. So for example, an orca or dolphins or a minke whale. If you're looking out at the sea, you would be able to see the fin really easily. Whereas on rough days, it must be harder to spot the whales. Wow, wouldn't it be incredible if a big orca just jumped out of the water? If that happened, I would be the happiest person in the world. I'm just walking along and I can see some rock pools in the distance there, so I'm not sure if they're suitable to swim in. Maybe it doesn't refill from the tide very often. That's really cool. There's a few people out fishing tonight because it's so calm. I can see them out on boats. I think they've left from Out Skerries from the harbour and gone out fishing. Just near the rock pool actually are these pieces of wood. So perhaps these are the remains of an old boat that was left here. It looks like the type of place that they might pull up a boat out of the sea. Wow, that wood looks so old. Shetland men were known for their excellent seamanship, which led to frequent visits from press gangs during the Napoleonic Wars. To avoid being forced into service, men would hide in the hills and sea caves. This spot, known as Annie Elspeth's resting place, was where women delivering food to the men in hiding would stop and watch for ships. So I've made it to a point now where it's quite rocky, and in order to continue exploring the island, you need to pass over these rocks, and there are ropes. Let me show you what you have to do to get over to the next part of the island. Ahead of me, you can see the next part of the island, and as I was approaching, I saw this rope here, and then I saw where it goes down there. And then there's another one over there. So in order to go over to the other side of the island, you need to use these ropes. I think it would be nice to go over there, and I want to see the remnants of the house where they used to deliver the food. However, I'm on my own and it's also starting to get dark soon, so I don't want to head over there and I slip or something. Instead of heading over there, I'm going to continue on and see what else I can find on this island. In this area lie the remains of one of the many shipwrecks around the Out Skerries. In 1711, the ship De Liefde ran aground here while returning to the Netherlands with a cargo of money and gold. Only one of the 300 crew members survived the disaster. Navigating these waters before the invention of modern navigation aids and safety measures was extremely dangerous. The sun is going down. I think this is one of the most beautiful scenes I have ever seen in my life. And just ahead, there is another spot where you can see otters. I think I remember reading in the past that dusk is a perfect time to see otters. So it is dusk. It is an otter spot. The chances could be quite high. Oh my goodness, imagine I see an otter and the sunset. This will just be wonderful. I have made it to the otter spot. I sit here and look for the otters. Watch this beautiful sunset in the distance. I'm going to head back now before it gets dark. And also, in case you were wondering, not a single otter. Not a single otter. They are like unicorns. They don't exist. I think they're some mythical creature and they just don't exist. Behind me are the remainders of the salmon farm which used to be here on the island. So it closed down a few years ago and it used to employ quite a number of people on the island. And since the salmon farm has closed, I heard from some of the locals that the population on the island has decreased because of that, because it was actually a big employer on the island. Hello, so today is a little bit windy and rainy compared to yesterday, definitely not as nice. However, there's more things to see here on the island, so I'm going to head out, continue exploring, and I really would like to get to the small island with the lighthouse because technically that is Scotland's easternmost point. And it would be really great to go out there, but I don't even know if it's possible. I don't know if anyone would take me in a boat, if it's even safe to do that. If I bump into anyone today here on the island, I will ask about it and see if there is any possibility to get over there. However, if I don't manage it, it's not the end of the world. Technically, I still made it to the easternmost area of Scotland, and this is the part that's accessible by regular ferry. Let's head out and explore more of the Out Skerries. So I've headed out for a walk. There was no rain due until this afternoon. However, the weather has changed. The rain forecast is now rain all day and it's raining. It's not very heavy though, and I'm going to continue walking around the island until it starts to get heavier. It's actually quite nice to experience the island with the weather that I had yesterday and today, because the reality is that the weather is more likely to be like this most of the time here, so you can see what it actually is like to live here and the conditions on the island. I've made it out to the Isle of Housay again. Over there is where I watched the sunset last night, and I've walked a little bit further around, and behind me there are some remnants of the fishing industry here on the island. As I was walking here, I stopped in at the shop and I asked if they knew anyone that could potentially take me out to the lighthouse, to the easternmost point. The guy made a call to someone who has a boat, but he said today is not the best day to be going out there due to the weather conditions and the tide, so better to be safe than sorry. So that's a shame. It probably would have been a better day yesterday to do it, but I wanted to explore the island first. I still have some more time left here on the island, so you never know, it might still be possible to get out there to the easternmost point. Nearby there is another beach that I'm going to go and see, and I'll head there next. I found this stone structure here on the hill, so I'm sheltering out of the wind for a couple of minutes and having a little rest. Over there is where I walked last night. It's really impressive to see it from this high vantage point. Yesterday you could see very far, you could see a lot of the other islands here in Shetland, but today the visibility is quite bad and they've all disappeared. I continued my walk around Housay and came across some beautiful flowers and an impressive beach with lots of stones. Compared to yesterday, the seas are really choppy. It's not calm at all, so yeah, not a great day to be going in a boat to the easternmost point of Scotland. As I continued walking, I came across an interesting building. I came inside the building which has a boat for a roof. So there's a book over there which explains some history about the boat, and In Shetland, this was a traditional type of building, so you'd have the structure of the building with a boat on the roof, and it mentions that they're quite rare to see in Shetland these days. I did see one on the Isle of Fulla when I was there, and last year when I was in Shetland I stayed at a campervan and motorhome stopover on the Isle of Yell, and I also saw one there. So if you have a chance to see a building like this, definitely try when you come to Shetland because they're really unique. I haven't seen these type of buildings anywhere else before. So there's an interesting story behind this as well, which I read, and this boat was sunk by a German submarine during the First World War, and then it was restored, and then this building was finished in 2013. What a cool idea. What a unique thing to find on my walk. I didn't even know this was here on the island. After finishing my walk on Husay, I returned to the Isle of Bruray and came across the island's water collection system. It includes a concrete collection area, boreholes and storage tanks. In 1983, the islands gained electricity through an undersea cable connected to the neighbouring island of Walsey. So I'm now on the Isle of Bruray. I'm probably killing that pronunciation. That's where I've hiked this morning, over there. It is so windy, rainy and choppy out there in the sea. Look at that. It is quite rough now. There was actually quite a few shipwrecks around this island, and I can understand why. It's so rough out there. I have walked around the side of the island and Scotland's easternmost point has come into view there. There it is ahead of me. We made it to Scotland's easternmost point. So I've been to the southernmost point, that's the Mull of Galloway in Dumfries and Galloway. I have been to Easternmost on the Isle of Unst in Shetland, and I have seen the Outstack in the distance, which is the northernmost point, and that's the northernmost point of the United Kingdom. And then I've been to the westernmost point on the Scottish mainland. I haven't been to the westernmost point of Scotland, which is very hard to get to. Very, very hard to get to. It's a big rock in the middle of the sea, and it's a very long journey to get there from the Outer Hebrides, so haven't been there yet. If anyone would like to go there with me, let's charter a boat for a group of us and we can all go to Rockall so that we can go to the westernmost point of Scotland. But it's nice to be here and see the easternmost point of Scotland. Even though I couldn't make it out to the small island where the lighthouse is, I still feel like I made it to Scotland's easternmost point. On my way back to the harbour, I passed Long Ayre Beach, where fishermen used to use the pebbles to dry their catch. The next morning, the ferry arrived and I reversed my van onto it. The crew secured my van and the return crossing was quite a bit choppier than the outbound trip. It's been a really interesting few days exploring the Out Skerries, and I've had such a wonderful time visiting more islands in Shetland over the last few weeks. The trip to Shetland this time has been one of my favourite trips in Scotland, and a lot of that is to do with the lovely people I've met. Thank you to Bottle Bottle for sponsoring this video, and as always, thank you so much to you for watching. See you next time!